It's showtime. Here we are, Mark. We are live talking about generative AI as it relates to a new frontier for project work. Mr. Balser, it's so good to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I mean, this is, as I said to you a couple months ago when we first started talking about this, you know, I did one prompt. I put one prompt into Prompt GPT or Chat GPT, and I knew that a whole lot of things were going to change forever. Now, you and I've worked together for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't fall for every hype and fashion in the software industry. In fact, I'm
That's right.
kind of the one who goes, "That's new now. Seen it before. This is new."
Excellent. That's exciting, man. That's really exciting. So, first and foremost, thank you all for joining again. If you have comments or questions, just type them on in. We love questions, and I'm popped it up there in the chat. So please don't hesitate to do that. And this recording will be available after the session, so you can send it to other folks or rewatch it. Mark, here we go. What are some of the tools you are using now in the generative AI space in project work?
Well, I mentioned ChatGPT, okay, and that's sort of the 500-pound gorilla in
Are
the
you
room.
at three or did you buy four?
Oh, of course, I bought four.
Oh, you're at four. Okay, great.
Okay, yes, because number one, I mean, first of all, the prices are reasonable. Okay, don't want to sound like a commercial.
Yeah.
You're also supporting the work by doing this. Um, but the other part of it is that, you know, with ChatGPT, for example, you get a lot greater access to the tool. I mean, I hear one of the things that people talk about with these tools is they say, "Oh, well, I can't use them." I have a colleague who says, "I can't use it during North America working time or evening time." All right. And I said, "Well, purchase the official product, you know, go ahead and use that." But then there's also all kinds of experimental features like plugins and so forth that may or may not be useful, but they're certainly worth exploring. Other ones I think are Claude. What I like about that one is the ability to drop in whole documents. So
Mm-hmm.
for example, as part of learning this stuff, I took a requirements document from many years ago, dropped it in, and said, "Summarize this." Then I went on and I said, "Oh, can you give me a bunch of user stories for this particular feature?"
Yep.
If we're on user stories, maybe you can do some use cases, maybe you can do some test cases. Uh, you know,
Did it do
and
it?
yeah, I mean, you have to learn how to use it. I mean, other things, for example, are Perplexity. That's sort of a
Another tool.
competitor to the other two.
Okay.
And then, of course, there's DALI, which a lot of people have using, for doing images. I know Tom is saying that he rarely has issues during U.S. business hours. Yeah, I mean, I think depending upon where you are, it may or may not give you problems, but certainly, you know, um, you know
I'd like to then
that's
hear that I used to have problems, and then I upped to four, and of course, no problems. And I've
right.
had no problems getting into Claude
Yeah,
at all.
yeah. I
That's,
mean,
I
the only
mean,
thing with
that's an
Claude, for
easy one.
example, is it will say, you've run out of the number of times you can, send in requests. Because, usually, for example, if I'm doing real work, I'm banging on it and really having great conversations. I mean, I think the best part about it is it's like having a personal assistant who knows your business. Okay. Um, and the important part of it is that you know good interaction interviewing techniques, those are the kinds of things that work really well when you're using these generative tools.
Hmm. Now, how about Barb and how about Llama, the Meta tool? Have you played around any of those two?
Played around a little bit for the purposes of what I'm doing and the client base that I'm working with right now. Most of these are people who are not coders. And so
Okay.
as a result, If the instructions for installation start to say things like, get Python, write the following command shell, all of this is stuff that eventually someone is going to simplify, make easier, make more straightforward.
Maybe no code it or low code it.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, for example, one of the things I'm looking at right now is something called private GPT, which
So talk to me about that. I was going to ask you that question as it relates to differences in the tools. So tell me about that.
Yeah, well, the value of that, let me see, one of the things that people have honestly raised with us over the last few months is we don't want to put our documents, our IP, knowledge of what we're doing out into the cloud.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for example, I've got a very large requirements document on
a specific, really special internal situation or system.
Yes.
Okay.
And the client has basically said, under no circumstances do you ever put that onto, public generative AI. But of course, my goal with getting some of the private tools set up is to be able to make it so that they, we can get the same value of being able to summarize, being able to interrogate, being able to essentially have conversations with your documents. And some of these can be very old legacy documents, to be able to do it without giving away or without having to go outside your firewall.
Yeah, but you can also close it. I mean, the APIs are there now that you can actually protect yourself from that type of data being fed into the open system.
I think one of the things about this field is that if you go, I know I sound like I'm making excuses when I say this, if you go heads down for 2 weeks to do real work, by the end of those 2 weeks, enough has changed that someone goes, didn't you know about that?
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
There was a new YouTube video about that just 48 hours ago.
And when we teach on this, that's the thing. We got to do our best to keep up. But let's get into some specifics for business analysts, because they can go to other sessions to talk about the different tools and things like that. So what BA tasks are you seeing that can be quickly and easily done using generative AI? LLM systems?
Yeah. I think the first thing is overcoming the getting started problem. Okay. And by the getting started problem, I mean, anytime you come into a new subject matter, which most of us have to do, we come in and we're faced with a whole bunch of people who they're experts in the subject matter. We don't know anything about it. It combines the ability to provide research for you. Now, some language models are older. In other words, their training stopped at a certain point. Others are more live access. But, the ability, if someone says, I need an elevator pitch for something, or put together a RACI matrix, RACI. Now, sometimes people go, what's a RACI matrix? Okay, here's what you can do with generative AI. Give it the problem. Tell it the problem you're trying to solve. Say, give me an example of a RACI matrix for this. All right, you take a look at it and you go, I don't really understand what it is. Now, sometimes it will actually tell you in advance, a RACI matrix, blah, 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 is used for here. Here's an example of a RACI matrix for your problem. All right, and it will give you one. And before long, you're looking at it and going, but wait a minute, we don't have a blank stakeholder.
Yep.
Or we have this other stakeholder, these other two stakeholders instead. Where would you fit them in? And before long, you find yourself not just having a work product, not only having an artifact, but you have engaged in a conversation and further developed your understanding.
That's what I love about it, is that now you can think more about what should be included instead of what you're writing. Right?
Yeah.
you get so tired in the writing, then you stop and you're done. You don't want to think about, did I miss something? Should I think about this longer? You just have basically a buddy there who will debate what you're doing and give you ideas.
I mean, the best writers, the best writers are good readers. And one of the things, that people have always talked about for the last 6 months to a year about ChatGPT and similar generative AI tools is, oh, kids will cheat. No. Here's the issue. Put in the prompt, have it write your paper, and then you come back and, now you say, let's edit this paper. Let's work on, digging deeper. Let's work on finding the hallucinations, the places where it's not accurate. And I love what Tom says, never gets tired of talking to you.
It doesn't stop.
Eventually, Claude does say, you have run out of slots until 9 p.m. or whatever, which is actually not so bad. It's a good way of telling you to go take a break, go do something else. But I think back to your original question, it's the getting started problem that I think is number one. I find this as a BA instructor too. Many times when we're doing various classes, and especially when folks come to us and they want us to customize a class to their particular artifacts, their particular work products, their particular practices, there's always the problem of, okay, did we do it right? Do we have good examples? Do the examples all hang together?
Yeah.
And I find that in putting together this course that we're about to roll out, I went back and took a lot of different case study problems from a lot of different courses, plus some things that I've worked on in the past, and have developed kind of a consistent modality of, give it the problem, start going through conversations. There's certain deliverables, certain artifacts that are useful to produce, because in the production of them, I'm refining its understanding of the problem, which is also refining my understanding of the problem. Haven't had a chance to do this in a true group setting, what sometimes people call in the programming world, they call mob programming. Mm-hmm. But I think that could be really awesome, and I will love to see
so from a BA perspective, we're going to talk more about the tools in a second, but we had one of our attendees, Miranda, talk about that. She's actually a certified prompt engineer. So from a business analyst perspective, how do they have to start learning the art of prompting outside of getting certified? And tell us more about how the system ultimately learns about your voice, your style, your way of communicating, almost becomes like you.
You bring up two really interesting points. I think the first one is that the prompting is half the picture. The other half of the picture is knowing how to do business analysis in your organization. Okay. And so great, great, you've got the background now in prompting and you're good with the tools of being able to do that. How do you engage in conversations? And, how do you, get the information? How do you know what you need to produce? Okay. The second issue is one of, style. And that was something I was actually playing with just yesterday, because I had a task to basically produce promotional material for something.
Yep.
And what I loved about ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity, I could give them a whole block of text and say, give me a 80 to 90 word summary of what's going on here. Mm-hmm. All right. But the problem was that it's kind of like the Three Bears. Sometimes it's too stiff and formal. Sometimes it's just so happy, and full of cliches. Okay. How do you get it to that middle ground?
Yeah. Doesn't it learn your style? Doesn't it over time? Does it pick up on your cues?
It's actually, you can be more direct than just having it learn your style. You can be more direct in saying, I don't like this. Tell me how to fix this. I don't like this. Tell me how to fix that. Okay, this is good. Now, this is my favorite prompt. How do I get you to give me this again? And
Okay.
I've done that with text for style. I've done that with um,
I'm
various
writing this
kinds of
down.
models or code artifacts. And that's a really valuable prompt. How do I get you to give me this again? And then I'll go into a completely different window, a completely different chat. And of course, there's no memory between chats. So I'll go into a completely different chat.
Yep.
And I'll say, give me that. Okay. So Samuel's asking the
Yeah.
alternatives out there. I think it's always worth mentioning those. Um, Claude.
Claude's number one, and it's only in the US and the UK right now.
Right.
I actually am starting to like it more than ChatGPT for some things.
Yeah.
Like you said, you could put whole text in there instead of having to cut and paste. But anyways, that's Claude. Keep going, Mark.
Yeah. Bing Chat is another one. And there are a couple different ways that you can get to that. There's also Google Bard. And again, I'm mentioning things that are generally free and readily available.
Yeah.
And when I say free, yes, you may have to give up an email address or set up a Google account or a Microsoft account, but you're not having to pay a subscription for those, nor are you having to go install software. And of course, there are a number of others. I'm sure that somebody in the group will be able to add other recommendations into the chat.
Well, they're the top. I mean, right now you talked about Perplexity, which is an offshoot, but GTP 3, 5, or 4, whether you're paying or not. Claude, US and England, UK. Barb, right? The Bing and Chat. Both require a little bit more sophistication, but not horrible sophistication. Then after that, you start going into your tools for video and your tools for your tools that you can use for imagery. And so I can actually put in the chat here or send out to folks the reference guide we have on that. And things like Kavana.com is a really good one. DAL-E2.
Dolly, yeah.
Yep, that's really good. You have Otter.ai. Grammarly is getting better and better out there. That's another really good one. So I'll see if I can post this into the chat or get this out to folks later on. But this is a reference guide more around the image side. But Mark, let's show some stuff in action.
Okay. So let me show you that very first kind of thing that I would do.
Okay, I'm going to add it to stream.
Okay, so I'm going to set up a new chat here. And, one of our examples that we have in one of our classes is a coffee shop. So you notice over on the left, I've got other examples of this, but I might say, I'm to be developing a coffee ordering app. Give me an elevator pitch. That's usually one of the things in BA or Agile training we use as an initial exercise. So here it's going, and it's giving me something here. And I'm already looking at that and going, that's not what I think of as an elevator pitch. In something in the crossing the chasm style. Because you know, there are often when this is presented, at least the way we do it is we do it in the Jeff Moore Crossing the Chasm style. Okay.
So what from a whether you whether, I missed that as I was typing some questions. What are you working on right now?
I'm just, taking that and, now we're starting to refine this. Now the first thing was, oh, it didn't match the format I was looking with. Now, let me look at this. Okay, looks like they're already throwing out features. Let's
see if you can make your screen a little bigger. If that'd be great, if possible. Yeah, keep going. One more bigger would be good, I think. And if you make a whole screen too, yeah, perfect. Okay, great. It's much easier for us to see now.
Did I tell you we also sell eye tests? No, just kidding. Smart Schedule looks like a more advanced feature. What would be in an MVP? Notice that what's happening is as I'm doing this, I'm starting to think not just about the deliverable, I'm thinking about all the different aspects of the product. See, one of the things we didn't talk about so far is the fact that a chat will keep memory of everything that has been discussed before.
Within that chat.
Yeah,
that's why you have to manage your chats.
Right. And so, for example, I'll have I'll keep a chat for that particular project, and presumably it will keep all of the different, all the information. It has essentially learned about this app from its own knowledge, but also from how I have prompted it. Okay.
Yep.
So I asked it and I said, well, what would be in a minimum viable product? Okay. So we have a number of things here: user account creation, customization. Okay. So who would be actors and stakeholders?
Oh, interesting. Okay. Now let's see this.
Okay. And again, only because of the fact that that's one of the things that, again, is often on the list is they'll say, oh, come up with an actor and stakeholder list. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we'll look at this and all right away, I hone in on delivery personnel.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that too generic?
As soon as it's done, I'm going to say delivery is out of scope for the MVP.
Okay. My God, it's like every stakeholder on the earth you could think of. That gets me nervous. But yeah, do your thing.
Okay. And it's so polite. I mean,
yeah.
There are many times where I've said to a colleague,
you asked me for that, I'd say, stop being stupid. Why the hell did you ask me all that? Why didn't you tell me before I did it, Mark? Come on.
Right. It doesn't look at me with the
Do you think I could type faster?
I just spent so much time on all this.
I wonder if I could chat faster than it. Okay, so you got your actors and your stakeholders. How else would you think you would tighten this up as it relates to writing a document?
Well, okay, so maybe what I would do is I'd go back to this and I'd say, give me the end users. Journey map.
I want to see this.
And by the way, let's call them the coffee customer, coffee drinker.
Coffee drinker. Caffeine heads.
Yeah. Because, one of the things one of the things I always suggest to people is don't use the word user because it's too broad. Everybody's a user. Okay. So let's give them a specific name. Okay. So again, here we go. It's giving me a journey map. Now you'll notice that everything
It's
that
funny. It starts off with the marketing side of it.
yeah. And again, my job once I have the work product,
This is
you know,
pretty
in other words,
detailed. Which, go ahead.
it's a personal assistant who gives me the work product very quickly, gives me the artifact, and now we can sit down and we can edit it. You know,
How about type in that you don't want to order on? Show me a journey map not ordering online.
okay.
All right,
And
I
then,
like this a lot.
you know, and what I would probably also be looking
Because
at
you can tie
is,
these two together, by the way. So I thought the first one was missing some of the importance of before you walk into the shop. Like, is the shop clean from the outside? Does it look hip? I might know it's there, but maybe I order my coffee, but you might not go back again. I don't know, but this is really this is really interesting.
I mean, again, this is something that, you know, this idea of merging things. For example, you know, when doing certain work, I'll go off to different platforms. I'll go to ChatGPT. I'll go to Claude.
Yep.
Sometimes I might even open up 2 different chats in GPT or in Claude or somewhere just to see how the randomness of their thinking produces different results.
So you have to really
And
focus more on your reading aspect here. So when you're using, you got to be focusing on your reading and your critical thinking, and then comparison and contrasting, right?
yes, yes. I mean, that is that idea of from reading to writing is something that good teachers of writing for years and years and years have said that the way to be a better writer is to be a better reader. And to be a
Yep.
better reader, you need lots of content that you can use to critically evaluate what you're doing. This gives us that lots of content, and it gives us the lots of content in a very relevant form. I don't have to look at a, you know, somebody's explanation of inheritance by talking about cars and wheels and try to say, well, how does that relate to my problem? I can
Yeah.
ask the question in the context of my problem and get a reasonable answer. If I don't get a reasonable answer, I say, explain,
Explain.
clarify.
You can read so much faster. This is what I love about it, because search is great, but search, you had to search, dig around and search. This is, you know, there's no digging around. It's there, and you can update and you can adjust. Now, could you show us the use case example or no?
Sure. Okay.
This is intriguing to me. Oh, an in-store order. See, this is one of the things that intrigues me, is that you have to be a business analyst and know what the heck you're doing for this to work.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, you can't
I
just
mean,
walk in and say,
you know, the first thing, okay, prompt engineering is an interesting part of this. Okay, learning how to write prompts, but learning how to write great prompts as a business analyst requires that skill in being a business analyst. How do you ask the questions? How, you know, in our BA bootcamp course and other similar courses that I've done, we have exercises on interviewing.
Yep.
Those I always found to be the most fun, mostly because of the fact that it gives you the ability to really, you know, dig in and, you know, learn about a subject matter. But more importantly, the people who have the good interviewing skills are the people who have developed the good interviewing skills. You know, are the ones who have the good skills at using these kinds of tools.
So Tom had a great question just on the side as you're banging around.
Yeah.
I'm curious, do you think ChatGPT would be a good resource to practice interviewing, as in job interviews? A bit off topic, but I would love to hear the answer. I'll start first, and you can tell me from there. Here comes the user story. I mean, the use case. So my opinion is absolutely. So I would prompt it first by describing the person that you're going to be interviewing. So you may want to start with
Yeah.
describing an HR professional who's very by the book and who really is looking for a fit for culture. Then I would say, tell me how this person would want to hear an answer to this type of question. Like, what type of culture are you looking for? What type of, you could put in the type of questions that you think you're going to be asked, and the system could tell you how it thinks those people would want to hear an answer, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be really cool.
Yeah. I mean, the prompt is, the prompt begins with something like, you are the technical interviewer for a insert job description here, period.
Yep.
Start asking me some questions. Well, that's the same.
Yeah, but see, that's a question. I would want the system to tell me what they want to hear. So if I knew I was being interviewed by my manager, I was going to be interviewed by the manager of a BA. A manager is a BA.
This is why we have multiple chat windows.
Yeah, you could do both. But I love that.
That's copy from one and put it into the other.
You can go back and forth. See, I would want to know how that person would want to hear me answer questions like, I would give them the persona. You have to give them the persona, deep persona.
Mm-hmm.
The BA manager is 40 years old. They've had this background. It looks like they talked to me about this, this, and this. How would they want to hear X, Y, Z? How do they want to hear this question? How would they want to hear that question? That could be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So first off, we only have a couple minutes left. Could you pop up Claude for them? Do you have it readily available?
I'm sorry?
Claude? Could you pop up Claude for them?
Sure.
Oh, by the way, I was loving what that thing was producing.
It was producing a persona list.
Yeah, I want to see that when we go back to it. So, go back to Claude. So show them Claude.
Okay.
So this is Claude by, what is it called? Anthropic. Sorry.
Yeah.
And so you have some chats that you're doing right now, including working on the outline.
Yes. Well, I mean, and what's interesting about that is that, because I can give it, I'm choosing Claude because I can give it large documents. So for example, I can take the entire text of a chapter and put it in there and say, give me, a 250 word summary, or summarize the learning objectives of this exercise. I thought the learning objectives were blank. What's missing?
Yeah.
All right. Because, again, many times as we're doing our work, we will miss certain things. And so, for example, again, so for example, let's say that I'm, trying to plan out, have conversations about, who's going to be taking or who's going to be using, test case generation as a business analyst. Again, I think I had asked this question of all of the tools with just the idea of I'm going to try to see what I can get and what different kinds of responses I can get. Oh, so here we go. Here's something fun. Tell me about how I can use AI as a business analyst to help prepare for stakeholder interviews and even have AI play the role of the stakeholder. Okay. That's relevant to what we were just talking about. Now, I have that. So, we talk about style, rewriting as style. Okay. Can you write this as a chapter in a textbook in dummies style? Okay. All right. Redo this in a more business-like tone. Right. And of course, you can do all kinds of crazy things like, say,
What are you doing here, big dogs? With Richard.
How would Richard Feynman?
But they have to know Richard Feynman, so they must. He's
the famous physicist.
Oh yeah, see, that's how dumb I am.
Okay.
I'm being recorded and I'm drinking some OJ because I'm sick. Lovely, huh?
Okay.
God, how would Richard Feynman explain this?
Yeah. Now you got to have his. I forget whether it was a Brooklyn or a Bronx accent, but he had a really
You can
again
type that in. You can say, "Can you do this with a New York City accent?"
probably as well
Yeah, oh, you
too.
can, absolutely can. I've done that before. So,
Oh well, I know.
all right, let's go back to ChatGTP. We'll see the persona real quick, which is kind of
Uh-huh.
fun, and then we'll end with see if anybody has any questions. So look at all those different personas. The daily
Right.
commuter. All right, 32. Let's go to the coffee connoisseur, Daniel. Let's see. Let's see, freelancer, coffee blogger, college student. Yep, that's a casual one. Remote worker. That would probably be me. Health conscious drinker. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any questions for us? And Mark, I'll let you go and let you have. We're going to pop up the banner for a conference we're doing. So we're doing an AI day for SDLC professionals. It's coming up on September 28th. It's 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. The way that StreamYard resolves it makes it a little messy. But we'll have 8 presenters, 9 topics. Mark's also doing AI for testers. It's not on there. It's $25 to attend. I mean, sorry, $25. I wish. It's $95 to attend, but we are doing wait for it. We are doing a early bird, which gives you $15 off until September 1st. But there is the link to go to the conference. Any questions before we end up? All right. Doesn't look like we have any questions. And Mark, we can sneak over and look at the chat, see if anything popped in after we left. But anything you want to add before we leave?
It's changing week by week, so stay tuned. Keep an eye on what we're doing, and we'll be updating you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mark. And we look forward to getting your 2-day hands-on AI boot camp for business analysts coming out in October as well. So
That's
we'll
right.
be able to show that class pretty soon too. Thank you all.
Thank you.